Have you ever had one of those brilliant ideas, a flash of insight that feels completely, uniquely yours, only to just push it down because it seemed a little weird, a little different? We live in a world that is just buzzing with opinions, constantly telling us what to think, how to act, and who we should be. In this explainer, we are diving deep into Ralph Waldo Emerson's timeless essay, Self-Reliance, to unpack a really powerful idea that the ultimate authority you've been searching for, well, it's already inside you.
So let's just start with a question that gets right to the heart of everything. Why is it so easy to live by what everyone else thinks, but so incredibly hard to trust our own gut? We're always looking for validation, we crave that approval, and man, we are terrified of judgment. Emerson saw this as the central challenge of living a genuine life. And his solution? It was to see society's approval for what it often is, a conspiracy against your own soul.
Emerson's whole argument really kicks off with diagnosing a problem he saw everywhere. He called it the conformity conspiracy. Now, this isn't some secret group meeting in a dark room. No. It's that subtle, constant pressure we all feel to just outsource our own thinking, to hand over our moral compass to the world around us.
And Emerson does not pull any punches here. He describes society as a joint stock company. Think about it like this. In a company, all the shareholders agree to give up a little bit of individual freedom for the security and the profit of the whole group. Emerson's point is that we do the exact same thing with our lives. We trade our authentic individual liberty for the comfort of just fitting in.
And this is where you see the real cost. Every single one of us has what Emerson called a gleam of light, those unique intuitive thoughts that just flash across our minds. But because we're so afraid of being different, of what the crowd is going to think, we learn to just ignore them. We choose the safety of the group over the genius of our own soul. And that's the central battle right there, our inner voice versus public opinion.
All right, so if conformity is the problem, then self-reliance has to be the answer. But hold on, because this is probably one of the most misunderstood ideas in all of American philosophy. So let's get really clear on what Emerson actually meant. It's not about being a lone wolf.
Okay, so on the one hand, you have this common misconception that self-reliance means rugged individualism, going it alone, isolating yourself, being selfish. But Emerson's idea, on the other hand, is so much deeper. It's about shifting the source of your authority, moving it from the outside world to your own inner compass. It's about trusting your intuition not because it's just yours, but because it's a direct line to a universal, divine wisdom.
You've probably heard this line before, and for good reason. That iron string he's talking about, that's the unbreakable connection between your individual soul and what he called the oversoul. Think of it as a kind of universal consciousness that connects every single one of us. So to trust yourself is to trust that you are tapped into something much, much bigger. And this is so key. For Emerson, intuition isn't just a hunch or a gut feeling. He calls it the primary wisdom. It's your original self, the you before social conditioning got its hands on you. He saw it as a divine spark, a direct line to universal truth. And hey, if you're not religious, you can just think of it as your deepest, most authentic self, the person you were before the world told you who you were supposed to be.
So now that we have a good handle on what self-reliance actually is, let's talk about the stakes. What happens when we choose the opposite path? What is the real, tangible cost of conformity and imitation? Well, according to Emerson, it's nothing less than losing your true self.
This is Emerson at his most stark, his most brutal. Let's break this down. Envy is ignorance, means that when you want to be someone else, you are basically blind to your own unique value, your own potential. And imitation is suicide? Whoa, that's even stronger. He's saying that when you spend your life trying to copy someone else, you are literally killing off the authentic person you were born to be.
And the costs just keep piling up. When you conform, Emerson warns, you don't just tell a few little white lies. He says you become false in all particulars. Your entire life becomes a performance. And you are the exhausted actor stuck playing a role you never even auditioned for. Your creative energy is totally wasted just keeping up the facade, and you end up living someone else's life, guided by their opinions, not your own.
Okay, so if nonconformity is the goal, what is it that holds us back? Well, it pretty much boils down to one word: fear. The fear of being judged, the fear of being disliked, of being misunderstood. But here's where Emerson just flips this whole fear on its head. He argues that being misunderstood isn't a sign of failure, it's a mark of greatness. It means you have the courage to disappoint people.
A foolish consistency. That's the pressure to say the same thing today that you said yesterday, just so you can appear consistent to other people. But a great soul, Emerson says, has absolutely nothing to do with that. Real growth means you are free to change, to evolve, and yeah,
even to contradict yourself. Your only duty is to whatever is true for you, right here, in this moment.
And I mean, history proves him right, doesn't it? Just look at these names. Socrates, Copernicus, Galileo, Jesus, Martin Luther. Every single one of them was a nonconformist. They were misunderstood, they were scorned, some were even persecuted in their time because they trusted their inner voice over the established rules. As Emerson famously wrote, "Whoso would be a man must be a nonconformist."
Now, this all sounds great in theory, but how do we actually do it? How do we build this muscle of self-trust in our day-to-day lives? Emerson's philosophy isn't just some abstract idea, it's a practice. So let's look at a simple 3-step reset you can use anytime you feel that pull of conformity.
It's really this simple. First, when you feel that social pressure, that fear of judgment, just pause. Seriously, just take a breath. Second, actively listen. Tune out all the external noise, the expectations, the opinions, and turn your attention inward. Listen for your intuition, for that gleam of light. And finally, step 3 is to honor it. Take one small action based on that inner voice. It doesn't have to be some huge grand gesture. Every single time you do this, you strengthen your self-reliance.
So what's the ultimate payoff for all of his difficult work of nonconformity and self-trust? Well, according to Emerson, it's the one thing that pretty much everyone is searching for, but they're looking at all the wrong places. It is genuine, unshakable peace.
Just let that idea sink in for a second. It's one of the most radical statements in all of philosophy. He's saying that more sacred than any institution, any tradition, any other person's opinion is the integrity of your own conscience. Your mind, when it's aligned with your intuition, that is your holy ground.
You know how it is. We spend our lives chasing peace through all these external things, getting that promotion, earning other people's approval, buying the right stuff. But Emerson argues that this is a fool's errand. All those things are fleeting. They depend on the world's ever-changing opinion. The only source of real, lasting peace has to be internal.
And this is his powerful conclusion. See, peace isn't something you just find. It's something you achieve. It is the triumph of principles. That victory that comes from living in alignment with your own deepest truths, no matter what the external pressures are. Nothing outside of you can give it to you. And because of that, nothing outside of you can ever take it away.
So let's just quickly recap. Self-reliance isn't about isolating yourself. It's about trusting your inner authority, which connects you to a universal truth. It's about having the courage to be a nonconformist, because imitation is suicide, and the only true peace you'll ever find comes from the triumph of your own principles. Which leaves us with one last question for you to think about. What is one small step you can take today to honor that quiet, persistent voice inside you that already knows the way?